Hello everyone, it is Christine here and Happy New Year, Happy 2025. I hope it's a wonderful year for you. Hope you are safe, happy, healthy and filled with creative energy and creative joy in the year ahead. I've got a fun activity to do with you to create some supplies for slow stitching into, and what we're going to be playing around with is stamping onto fabric and then colouring it. And I've been inspired by the wonderful Annie from Arty Farty Annie, and I'll link to her both in the title of this video but also in the description below. She's got a wonderful YouTube channel and I really encourage you to check her out. And she was recently doing some stamping onto fabric to make her own sort of bespoke designed fabric, and then adding colour with Inktense pencils. At the time when I was watching it, she was having some struggles with getting really defined lines, and so it kind of inspired me to think about would there be anything I could do differently to be able to get clearer lines with the stamping. So both having a play around with different inks and pigment stamp pads that I had, but I also had the idea to use some of this fabric which I have painted with a diluted down mix of acrylics. So this I was inspired to do, and I've got a separate video on doing that, which I will link to again in the description below this video. Fleur Woods, when I attended her workshop, she creates beautiful fabrics like this in this similar sort of greeny bluey colour using acrylic watered down to sort of the consistency of coffee. And what I discovered at Fleur's workshop, and then subsequently when I coloured up my fabrics, is it creates a medium where certainly the Inktense and acrylic paints or even watercolor paints don't run and don't kind of bleed as much. So I had the idea that possibly having that medium on the top of the fabric would also assist in giving a clearer stamp. And that's what I've found. And so that's the fabric I'm using here. So this is actually an old pillowcase that I coloured up with the watered down acrylic, which I'll link to in the video below. And so I've just taken it down into smaller strips and then put it into smaller squares to use for stamping onto. And the very best stamping medium that I've found through my experiments this afternoon is this VersaFine pigment ink for fine details, and this one's the Onyx Black. So I've got other stamp pads, but they do tend to give a fuzzier, blurrier line. The other thing I found is having a good acrylic block to use as what you press down onto your fabric. And then underneath I'm using what's meant to be like a mouse pad or an entire sort of pad to go over your desk with your computer. It's actually one we got I think when we were trying to use up some airlines points, some Emirates points that we had when it was during COVID and we knew we weren't going to be flying, so we got various things and this was one of the things we got. So it's just almost like that sort of wetsuit material, and it's just got a little bit of give in it. So that's what I'm using as my base as well, because it does help, as Annie says in her video, to have something that just has a tiny bit of give just to get that really good imprint. But as you can see, I've been really lucky with the combination of both the fabric and I think the pigment ink, certainly, because I've even tried printing on ones that aren't treated with treated with the watered down acrylic, and they've still printed quite well as well. So that was just good to do that little sort of test. But yeah, certainly I think having the acrylic on there really helps when you come to then add colour to the pieces. So I've been playing around with a whole lot of different mediums to add colour, and I'll show you in this video the different effects that they create. So I have used these fabric markers from Anko. They're $9 Australian in Kmart, and Target has them as well for the same price. So that's for 16 markers for $9. So I think that's pretty reasonable. And again, it was something I had in my stash that I haven't been using, so I was keen to put that into use. I'll also show you these watercolor brush pens. Again, that's something I got from Kmart a long time ago, so good to be using those. I'll show you just how regular pencils go in adding colour. I will also show you how these metallic brush pens, again from Anko, so I've got quite a few Kmart. My art supplies aren't that expensive in the main, the ones I've had for a while. I think I've had this Derwent watercolour set since school. So I think that was something we had to get as part of our school supplies. So I'll show you how that works. And I will also show you how the Derwent Inktense blocks, which are a more recent, I got these, I think it was last Christmas, or was it the Christmas before? I think it was last Christmas. And so these are similar to the pencils that Annie is showing in her video, but these are the block variety. I'll just get those ready actually, so we have them on hand. So they've got two trays. Just put them to the side. So let me show you, so these are ones that I haven't yet coloured up, but they're stamped. So these are something I think I'm going to use in another project, so I'll just put those to the side. I've got these little dragonflies, this lovely little flower. They're all the ones that, are unstamped, uncoloured. Here's a set of little birds that I actually just coloured up with some of this blue and this blue. I was thinking I can either have that like a little bespoke fabric, or I can cut individual little birds out. I love my birds and I love having them in my pieces. So I'll pop those over here. This is a dragonfly that I coloured up with my Inktense block, so using just a bit of water and then just adding some colour to the wings. As you can see, there's a tiny little bit of, sort of going outside of the lines, but again, that was probably my painting more so than bleeding. This lovely owl scene, which we'll create one of these together because it actually takes multiple pieces that are then sort of layered on. So we'll do one together, and I'm thinking, these will be little cards that I can have as birthday cards, because I do find that the birthdays come around very quickly, and so it's really great to have some cards on hand. This is very sweet, and this one was coloured up with the Anko fabric markers. This one was coloured up with the Derwent Inktense blocks, and I did it sort of more in like a watercolory effect. So some blue around, but then in the centre more yellows and then greens, and then I sort of added a colour to each of the elements and bled those out. So I quite like the softness of that. I think is a lot of fun. And again, this was where I put a compilation of elements together, but stamped it all as a single stamp. And then this is that same compilation of elements, but I've coloured this one in using the Anko fabric markers. So you can see it gives really good sort of clear definition, and you can pick up, different elements. Put these ones there. This one is a bird. Again, I used the Anko fabric markers for that. And just pleased with how easy they are, how quick. When I'm using the Inktense, it certainly takes me a lot longer. And then here, this one, let's do this one first. Again, this one was done using the Anko fabric markers, and again, just really quick to get something that's really beautiful and could just be added to like a little needle book. Could be made into a little pouch, but isn't that gorgeous? Or could even be printed across multiple bits of the fabric if you wanted to make your own bespoke fabric. So here, this is one where I did the stamp just onto regular cotton and then coloured it in this case with, still with the fabric markers, because I just wanted to compare how it goes colour-wise and intensity and sort of bleed with one that was done onto my pillowcase that had been treated with the watered down acrylic. So you can see this is a bit brighter. The colours are just sort of a little bit more intense. I think because they sit more on the surface, you can see this has bled through a lot more to the back than this one has. So yeah, I think the acrylic just creates a really good medium. And the other thing to say is this pillowcase actually has its own sort of like slightly raised embroidered design on it, but it's still, I was a bit worried that maybe stamping onto it and colouring onto it would be a problem, but it's worked beautifully. And I think part of that is due to the acrylic prepping of the surface. So that's those two. Now with this one, I was playing with the watercolor brush pens. So for this one, I first of all coloured it in, so with pinks and purples for the flower, and then greens, 2 colours of greens for the leaves, and then I added water to it and let it bleed out. And I think that's looking just really, really lovely. Like if that was on a fabric, it's almost got that sort of batik or really interesting sort of watercolory effect. Then I used these same watercolor brush pens, but first of all I wet down the surface here and then I coloured them in so they bled as I was colouring. So that's that effect there. These ones I coloured in with the metallic brush pens, again from Kmart and Anko. As you can see, it's probably covered. You can't see the sort of the details of the petals. That's probably my least favourite, but potentially useful for some things, but it's a bit more sort of harsh. And then this one I actually coloured in with the regular pencils. They don't even have a brand name on them. So yeah, I imagine they're just sort of cheapy pencils that have been with me for years. So that's that little selection. And then this was one that I did with the Inktense blocks. So you can see it gives a bit more of a watercolory effect, and then I put a little bit of a bluey sort of outline around with the Inktense. So yeah, it's a bit softer than, for example, and obviously I chose different colours, but a bit softer than the intensity of that. But I'm actually really happy with how the fabric markers come out, but I guess it depends what you're after, and that's why I want to kind of give you a bit of a look at it all. So I think first of all we'll get stamping, and you'll get to see how the VersaFine stamp goes. I'm not at all affiliated with any of the products that I am showing you. It's just things I have in my stash that I am now endeavouring to use and enjoy, and thanks to Annie for sharing the inspiration. So perhaps first up we will stamp a little owl scene. We don't have to stick exactly to this because, as I say, you can kind of make it bespoke to what you want. Which side do I want to use? Let's use this side. And I love with the acrylic treated fabric as well. It just has, lovely colour variation. Yeah, I think I'll stick with this side. So we need to, first of all, start with probably putting our owl on semi sort of centrally, because I'll probably just stick to a similar design as that, but yeah, you can absolutely alter it. And then I usually do it this way. You can also stamp your pad on. You can do it the other way up as well. Oops, is he not stuck on properly? That's a bit of a dodgy move, Christine. Let's just get him stuck down first properly. I'm not sure why he's not sticking to the pad, unless I've got something on it unless I got some hand cream or something. Anyway, let's just re-tap to be sure. And we'll put him on. Let's make sure I haven't got a bit of black on the stamp pad as well. Got black on my fingers. This always happens. And you can then stamp onto some paper. I'll just use a bit of the my paper towel here instead, just to make it a bit quicker for those watching. So I'll put him back onto the little owl stamp pad, and then I will get the wings. And so what I found best to do is to position the wings where I will want them to be, and then to push my stamp pad down onto it. Let's try that side then. And the great thing is you can do like sort of more quirky designs as well with the wings at different angles. I think I'll be happy with that. So, oops, push down onto it, get a good firm seal, And then get the stamp pad. Give it a good tap. And then give it a good push down. I'll just move you up a little bit just to make sure that you're staying, or I'm staying in frame. So I'm then just dobbering off to just remove the ink from those, or the pigment. Oh, and it's worth saying actually at this point, in terms of this pigment, it says, brings out the finest details, longest lasting pigment ink pad available, perfect for using watercolors to color stamped images. So it's actually made for then adding water, and I found even if I add water straight after stamping it, even without heat, like giving it an iron first, it worked just fine. So next up we'll do the branch, and what I discovered here was that my owl was sitting slightly above the branch, because I actually did that as part of the initial stamp with the owl. So this time I'll make it a bit more so that the owl's not hovering above, but the owl's just excited in the other one. That's why it's hovering off the page. That's much better. Again, just dabbing at my the branch. What will I want to do next? Let's do the party hat. I do like the party hat. So again, let's position the party hat where we want it. I suppose it doesn't matter as much here, because it's not like the wings where we need them to be at an exact place either side. Just have it come slightly down on the head. Probably almost had too much ink on that one. Actually, it's interesting. I think that this is probably the front painted side and this might be the back, even though it's got a bit more colour on it. Actually, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just pushing it down more, or maybe it's a bit more squishy here than it is over there. Don't know. But yeah, certainly getting a good outline. Then let's do our balloon. So you can also, with the stamp pad, do it this way as well, although I do tend to find that I then get my finger in it. And I've managed to also get the stamp pad, so I think I am better when I do that dabbing technique. Seems to just work better for me, but you do you. So I wonder if I should have, oh, I still have it. I think I'll still have it attached to the branch. Oops, I've done a slightly bodgy, but that's okay. It's a-okay. It's just going to be a little bit of extra detail on there. Otherwise I would have had my balloon coming off the page. Okay, and then we can put our little, what do we call it? What's that thing called? Bunting. So let's do the other technique. And really that's all it probably needs, is just to be coloured up. And then where do I want that to go? Yeah, I think down here it's slightly softer, so maybe that's why I was getting an even more generous stamp. I feel like I've got maybe, oh no, that's just a little bubble. That's okay. Right, and then we need to do our little leaves. So I usually like to have three things is what I like to have. Use a different leaf than what I used last time. Sorry, that's my belly making a big old groan. Which one? Which leaf will I use? Oops, and make sure that you're putting the back of the stamp up so that when you bring your stamp pad over, it is going to get them at the right spot. Though that one's slightly off, but when I stitch it, I can always, or colour it up, I can always just put a bit of stem there. In fact, I can even do that right now, just with, there we go, fixed. Okay, and then we need to do the cupcake and the little wine glass. So I can probably do those at the same time. So we can put our cupcake there and our little champagne glass over here. He's all decked out. He's got everything he could possibly need, unless we put the, no, we'll put that there. Champagne and cake, why not? Oops, that's the wrong way up. Rookie error, Christine. That's the right way, isn't it? Yes. Beautiful. Okay, what else do we need? Just putting everything back onto the little acrylic holder. Got the hat done, got the cake done, got the balloon. I think that's all, because I decided not to put the glass. There is a little pair of glasses as well that you can put on, but I think that, oh, and then the words, that's what we need. So do we want all the words? Let's start and see how we go. So we can put hoot, 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 hooray. Again, if you weren't doing these as like, yeah, if you wanted to just make a fabric, then you could, yeah, do it. Do it in a different way without the words. But I think it's going to make a beautiful, beautiful birthday card. And I think we can put all that will go in there. Yeah, you're awesome. Yep, beautiful. And then put this one, which is your owl old. Puns, gotta love a pun for a birthday. Where will that go? Up here. And then what's this one? Let's have a hoot of a day. Don't know if you're only meant to use one of the words, but I think they're all so cute that I just can't resist them. And then which one haven't I used? Was it this one? Oh no, they have a hoot of a day. I've got you're awesome, you're owl old, you are hootful. This one, you are hootiful. Will that fit over there? Or we put that there? Or we put that down here? Or down the bottom? Maybe down the bottom. No, I think down the bottom's good. There we are. Okay, so I'll just put those back over so they stay in place, and that is our little owly one. So I just love how each one's different, but at least you can sort of, you can see how it starts and then how you can colour it up. And so that was with the acrylic markers. And then I think we'll do just some smaller stamps of the little flower. I think might be a good one to show you on at a small scale. So I might be able to get ready and do a few of them at once so that we've got a few, so I can show you then with the different inks how they end up working. So it's this little flowery make sure I've got all of it in. And these ones are nice because they do have quite fine lines, so it really does help you to see how well this particular pigment works. Let's move this out of the way. It's a bit hard doing it in front of the camera as well, I think. So I can't sort of do the full lean over, otherwise you'd have my head under the camera. It does help to give it an extra little push down. So I'll just check I don't have any more. There's another smaller one. I think I cut out quite a few small ones just so that I would be able to have a few different varieties of surfaces, or not surfaces, a few different pieces to show you with all the different colouring implements how they work on it. So definitely come back for the next video if you'd like to see then the stitching into the pieces. We'll probably do one of the owl cards, I think, and one of the birds perhaps. Oops, I just noticed a little bead has gone escaping. Okay, and so I'm going to grab my piece of card, and I even love the pattern that's already been created with this afternoon's activities. So let's first of all start with these Anko fabric markers, and I will use, I think I'll use this pink for the inner area. Again, excuse any time that my colouring, Annie is a far better artist than me, so she does amazing artistic pieces. So definitely do check out her video. I just love watching how she kind of creates gradient in even her colouring in when she was using the Inktense pencils. And then I'll use this brighter colour around. But just see how quick and easy it is to use these. It'll be interesting to see how long they last for, but certainly I've done a fair bit of experimenting today, and none have run out or even started to run out. And I'll do a bit of a yellow. You can then add some other colours. So I like that you can kind of go over, and they don't bleed into each other much. And even though this is onto a coloured fabric, fabric that I'd coloured with acrylic, it's still, the colours are coming out quite nicely. But again, I think that's because the acrylic medium almost acts like a prep for the fabric. There we go. Then I'm going to outline just to get that nice sort of differentiation. I'm not going to do each of the, you can do alternating between light and dark for each of the sections, so that you do sort of like one light, one dark for each of the gradients. And so that is probably missing just a tiny bit of, and you can go back in if you've sort of got any places that are sort of lighter or darker, but it's sometimes nice to actually have a little bit of that gradient. And you can always then just go in and add a bit of extra, if you want to like add a bit of extra detail to the leaves, just to give it a sense of like maybe having a crease or something. So that's what that one looks like. I'm just going to move my light around so I've got a bit more light coming down on me. So that's with the Anko fabric markers. Next up, let's use some of our, will I use the Kiki K ones? No, I'll use the metallics, which are a bit more, to my eye, they're a bit more sort of blunt in their colouring, a bit more just sort of flat, I guess is what I'd say. But just showing that you can, and I'm sure if you just had sort of, regular textures, particularly I think if the fabric is treated with the watered down acrylic, but just have a play, just grab yourself a bit of fabric, see how it goes, with your ink pad. Like have a go first of all with the ink stamping pads that you have. But I just wanted to let you know about what I found was the best that I had in my collection, so that if you do have that you know you can use that. Just try and go a bit lighter on than I did on the other one, because maybe I just went a bit heavier. That's why we couldn't see, because this just does tend to be a bit more covering. I'll just use it on a lighter basis. And then for the leaves, again, I might just go a bit lighter on. There we go, and I'll use a bit of gold in the centre. And then I'll do the little stamens as well. And then I don't know if I want to do anything around the outside, maybe just to give an extra dimension to the leaves. Little glow like the sunlight is behind it, so there we go. I could actually maybe I'll do that little glow around the petals as well. So that is that one. And then next up, let's use our pencils, just our very regular pencils. So we can use our pinky colour in there. Let me just make sure I'm staying on camera. So these are just normal, don't know what brand they are, they don't have anything written on them. I imagine they might even have been out of like a school or maybe at university, maybe when I was doing my urban planning and when we used to have to colour in like zoning maps. Not sure. Maybe I'll use a reddy colour around the outside. I'll still be at Mum and Dad's. We had a big Derwent set of pencils. So many colours in that one. I remember using that for geography projects and other art projects. We always had so many crafts to do growing up. I didn't do that much, I guess, more traditional drawing and painting art, but Mum always had crafts and things, and I think that's where I got my love of crafting from. But yeah, I was just amazed how well the pencils actually applied over the stamp and onto the fabric. And again, I think that potentially the acrylic sort of, yeah, the watered down acrylic base that's dried onto the fabric just helps to create a good surface. So I'm not planning to wash any of these, but I do know it does say that these can be, you have to follow the instructions, but these can be washed. I don't think, yeah, I don't know. I haven't tried washing regular pencil, so I'm not sure how that goes. So there's that one. I don't know if I want to, I could always, actually I've got a darker green, so let me just add a bit of detailing around the leaves. So I think that's just what kind of adds the interest when you just get a bit of that dark and light. Oh, and I still need to do the centre of this one too, don't I? So I thought this was the best way to kind of give you a sense of the different materials and hopefully inspire you to go into your cupboard and have a look. It was so fitting to be watching Annie's video as I was cleaning out my craft room yesterday. And I had just moved my stamps and all my pencils over onto a new set of shelves, and I thought, oh yes, I should actually get them out. So that's how that one looks. So yeah, I think the pencil just creates a really lovely soft look to it. Definitely be using that again. Let's put the pencils away, and we'll get our Anko watercolor brush pens. So I'll show you the one where I put the watercolor on first, and then we can add some water to it. Because we're going to be adding water, I don't even have to be super precise with the colouring, or indeed go sort of super heavy-handed. Using a purple round the petals. So again, I'm just applying a bit of colour. I guess you need enough colour that when it does sort of bleed out, if I'm wanting to get that really nice bled effect, I guess you do need enough colour that you'll have enough to sort of bleed out. But let's see how that goes. I've got a little cup of water. So actually I'll do it over this end so I don't. And so I'm then just going to, maybe I'll start in the centre with the pinky ones. Just going to apply moisture and just let it kind of, yeah, bleed out. So yeah, obviously had less of the colour on this one than this one that I'd done earlier, where I'd coloured it in quite intensely and then added the water. But yeah, you can see you're getting that lovely sort of, yeah, watercolour type effect. So I will have to let that dry, obviously. Oh, and I didn't put anything in the centre of that one, so I'll need to just add a little bit of yellow. There we go. So yeah, I think that's quite pretty, just how it radiates out. So I'll just put that somewhere where it doesn't make my bench damp. And then on this one, I will put water on first of all. So I'll give it a good soaking. And as you can see, it's not impacting the pigment ink at all from the stamp pad. It is working a-okay-o. And so then let's just put and so you can use these quite lightly because the water's just helping them to kind of go nicely onto the fabric. I might use a red rather than the deeper purple around this one. I'm staying on camera. So you can see it's bleeding out a little bit. So just starting to get that nice little bleed effect. I mean, obviously you could use these pens and not have any water involved in them, but I figure seeing they're meant to be watercoloured brush markers, you kind of want a little bit of that watercolour bleeding effect. I like how that almost just looks like extra little sort of, yeah, petals behind there. So even the green, possibly because the water's not as, it's starting to sort of, yeah, dry off it. It hasn't bled out as much from the green. I just noticed I missed a bit of green in there. But it is now starting to merge a little bit out. So just to compare those two, obviously I did use different colours, but yeah, you get a lot of bleed on that and a little bit of bleed on this. And again, I forgot to do the centre. Again, I can just add a bit of extra brush of colour into the centre. Just gives it a nice bit of lightness. So yeah, you can see that even spreads out a bit more and merges a bit more with the colours, just depending how you do it and what order you do things in. So that those two can dry. Let me put my brush pens out of the way, just trying to kind of move things out of the way as I go so I don't end up with too much on the bench. Let me move these ones over and then we'll get my Inktense blocks. So we can, so with these, I will start and I might get a nice, can you see? Yep, you can see might use a yellow. So here I'm just getting just enough water on the brush just to pick up enough colour for what I want. Use that pinky colour. And so yeah, making sure my brush isn't too damp. I think this was the lovely brush that Fleur let me keep from the workshop, because I just found that, yeah, it was beautiful to paint with at the workshop, and it just, yeah, gets a lovely fine finish. So yep, you can see the colours I'm using, which is good. Did a massive reorg of my craft room, so I'm really actually happy with how everything is now. There will be a tour at some point in the future. I just need to put a few more things from sort of Christmas and a few other bits and pieces that I need to share on Thrifty Thursday videos away, and then yeah, I can do a future craft room tour. Okay, and then I'll go for a slightly more intense pink around it. It's not actually that much more intense. Maybe I'll go for this one over here. Oops. You probably can't see the block that I'm getting up here. So yeah, I find the acrylic treated fabric definitely helps when you're using Inktense, in that you don't even need to use like aloe vera or an alcohol. Sort of, some people use, I think Annie uses like a hand sanitizer sometimes to help hers from bleeding. But yeah, the treating it with the acrylic diluted down makes a really super base that stops doesn't stop totally, but limits the bleeding. Obviously, if you still use a lot of water, it's going to bleed out. And then the leaves, let's get our greens. So probably brought a bit of colour over there. I should have washed my brush, but never mind. Even though I don't rate myself as a painter, I do enjoy adding colour to my fabrics. I love that sort of, this process, because you're adding a design and then you're adding colour, and then we'll be stitching into it. And in fact, you've added colour in the initial process of preparing what was an old pillowcase and turning it into a wonderful base fabric, which I love. Love reuse and recycle. And this is the year for using what's in my craft room. Do I want to maybe... The other nice thing with the Inktense is you can kind of then layer on. If it's totally dried, then you can layer and it will actually go on without mixing. If it's still sort of damp, then you can get a bit of sort of additional colour sort of mixing and merging in with it. Which one was I using? That one. So I'm just adding an extra little sort of blush down the centre of those flowers. And then whether I want to add anything darker around the edge of the leaves or down the centre maybe. I want to do that around as well. First, when you do it, it looks a bit heavy-handed, but as it sort of settles in, it does add a nice shading to the outsides of the leaves. There we go. So that's that one. And then we can do one where we wet it down and then we add our colours to it. I think I've shown you. Yep, I think we're just on the Inktense now, aren't we? Let's then, we'll start in the centre, I think. What colour will we go for? Let's go for a pink. So it is going to, because it's really dampened down, it's probably going to have a little bit more sort of bleed and be a little bit more, sort of a little bit less perfect, but a little bit more freeform. Possibly, we'll see. It's probably not that much difference in colour that I'm using there. So maybe I'll actually come down here and get a more ready colour. That will be different for sure. So those two colours are now bleeding into each other because there's moisture to help them kind of come together. can see they're even bleeding a little bit out from the edges, but that's okay. Kind of going for a different look in this one. Just add a bit of yellow in the centre so that kind of bleeds but also lightens it a bit. And then we'll switcheroo over to our greens. And let's go for this green this time. Just checking that I'm on camera, yep. And you can obviously with these Inktense mix up colours as well to get your exact colour. But because I've got the big set, I generally find that I can find a colour without having to do too much mixing. There we are there. And then if you did want to like add a bit of a sort of a blue sky effect around it, actually I probably will mix a colour here after just saying I don't always do that. I'll bring a bit of the blue over to here, get a good amount of water, and I might actually use my other brush and just get a good amount of water just so we can then sort of create a bit of a blue shading effect around. So again, that's travelling beautifully on the fabric because the fabric's nice and damp, and it will just help to kind of, yeah, create a nice background effect. I can probably even have a little bit more blue, I reckon. Can you see how well that is sort of, yeah, transferring on the, moving across the fabric? You can almost see it travelling. So thank you so much, Annie. I just love how, yeah, we can all inspire each other, but I always get inspired watching you and just, yeah, watching the way you approach things. And I just love that we can all continue the experiment, share what we discover and find along the way. I don't even mind that it's kind of got a little bit of light around it as well. So again, this is quite damp, so I will probably leave it down on the paper, but that's what it looks like, and it will soften up a bit as it dries. So let me just put my Inktense away, and then we'll do a little recap of what we have discovered. So, well, what I have discovered is that this is my preferred one if I'm stamping onto fabric, so VersaFine pigment ink for fine details. So that's my preferred stamping medium. Having a mat that you can sort of, that has a little bit of give in it, having a acrylic block or something like that you can use for pressing down, using a fabric that has been treated with a dilute acrylic paint and left to dry. And yeah, I'll link to the video below this in the description where I did the dyeing of this and where you can see the process. And then in terms of ways you can colour your fabrics, and I think the sky is sort of limitless. There are these Anko fabric markers that you can get from Kmart or Target, or I'm sure you could find something similar in you might already have it in your stash. There's these watercolor brush pens, again from Anko. Again, I can't remember what price, I got them a long time ago, so I'm not sure. Regular pencils also work. Other sorts of textures like these Anko metallic brush pens can be used as well. They might be a bit more opaque. You can even, I did even do one of the things with an experiment just using these little Kiki K felt tip pens. They even coloured it a-okay. And then there's the Derwent Inktense blocks, or you can get them in pencil form, or you can get them in a palette form as well. And let me just give you another look at how this one that was done with those brush pens, and it's yeah, spreading out not as much as the one where I washed over with the water, but it's definitely got a lovely little bit of spread happening. So isn't that interesting? The same, well, slightly different colours, but the same product, but just, yeah, doing things in different orders and different amounts of water can give you a totally different effect. Just like with the Inktense blocks, the difference between these two, this is going to be a lot more muted and soft by the time it dries, and this one's a bit more sort of, yeah, defined and a bit more carefully coloured in. And then just to recap on the other ones, this one, which was with the coloured pencils, this one with the metallics, and this one with the fabric markers. So lots of possibilities there. I hope that's given you some inspiration, and do come back if you would like to see us stitching in. I think we'll stitch into this one, and if we have time in that episode, or we'll do it in another episode, we will stitch into the bird. Where's my bird gone? Not sure where my coloured in bird's gone, but I've got an uncoloured in bird over. Even that's hiding from me now. There we go. So maybe we'll even, colour up this bird. I might even use the pencils because, I think they could do a lovely job of colouring that up. So I'll see you in another episode for that. Thanks so much for watching, and take care and have a wonderful start to the new year. Bye, everyone.